All right, shalom, shalom, shalom. I want to start this lesson off by giving all praises, honors, and glories due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah Kwadash. All right, for giving me the Holy Spirit to do this lesson. Also, double honors to my apostles, elders, and bishops of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. Also, I want to say peace, blessings, and salutations to the hopeful elect, wherever you may be, scattered across the four corners of the earth. To you all I say shalom. All right. To the men, women, and children that will be slated to be delivered in these coming times, to you all I say shalom. This lesson will be titled the Diaspora, the Mizrahi or the Mizrahi Jews. All right. And the reason why I'm making this video is because I stumbled across, I would say, a couple of articles here going into the origins of these people. Okay, and the most common origin was during the Babylonian captivity. Uh, you had a number or a small percentage of Israelites, right? Israelites who stayed behind during the Babylonian captivity, right? Now I have a few scriptures lined up, going into the exile and the return and also the building of the temple. Okay, I'm gonna play this video, then we're gonna go ahead and hit, okay, pretty much the scriptures and articles that I have lined up, showing you that Israel, is scattered all over the world, and the majority of these Mizrahi Jews, they don't look like the typical Negroes. Now you have a lot of them or some of them that are still dark skinned. I even seen a picture of one of them with woolly hair, with like woolly curly hair. But for the most part, they look like they look like this. They have a Persian kind of like an you know Elamite Arabic look to them. That's because of all the admixture. Uh, throughout the centuries or the millenniums. Now, I'm not saying all of the Mizrahi Jews are Israelites because you do have heathens among them, but a good portion of them go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and play this video. Then, Lord willing, this lesson will be edifying. Now, you can see you could clearly tell from this picture, right? This black and white image that they have here, that these people here, they're all dark skinned. You could tell they're all dark skinned. Okay, these are the old images, but now if you look at most of the Mizrahi or the Mizraki, the Mizraki Jews, they all have a light brown or a very light skin complexion to them. So they pretty much have lost their melanin. Okay, and the Sephardic Jews are Israelites too. You know, there's a lot of information on the Sephardic Jews. One key point I would say is going back to 1492. Okay, the two main groups who were expelled, right, during the or let me say during the Spanish Inquisition are the Sephardic Jews and the Moors. Aka what people call the Muslims. Okay, now before 1492, the Sephardic Jews and the Moors, they lived together. Okay, for 700 years. In fact, if you search deep enough, it was the Sephardic Jews who actually helped the Moors conquer the region of Spain, Iberia. Okay? They took down the Edomites who were living in Spain at that time. The Sephardic Jews helped the Moors, and in return, the Moors gave the Sephardic Jews pretty much free access to practice their religion, practice commerce. They had free trade. They can practice trade, and they pretty much had what's it called, freedom of speech. So they could say anything they want, and most, if not majority of the Moors, like second advisors, majority of their advisors were Sephardic Jews. You even had some princes in Spain, in some territories of Spain, like Cordoba, that were that were Sephardic in origin, and you also had a lot of marriages between them. So the Sephardic Jews are also Israelites as well. After 1492, you had a lot of them who were expelled. A good portion of them went to Amsterdam, and they formed the Sephardic community over there. A lot of them, majority of them, went to places like France, southern France. They became the Huguenots, okay? The Huguenots or the Huguenots. And also, you have a lot of them that went down and settled in the Americas, primarily North America, aka an example is New York. The first colonial settlers of New York were Sephardic Jews. The old name for New York was called New Amsterdam because majority of these settlers, they came from the Netherlands. And the reason why they were fleeing the Netherlands was because of the changes within that country due to the wars that were happening. The Netherlands were pretty much bouncing back and forth through, between rulerships. I believe it was France and some other country, that they were bouncing back and forth to. You can go ahead and look up the history on that on your own time. But basically, that forced a lot of Sephardic Jews to travel, and they came to the Americas, and they pretty much built up what you know as New York. Okay, and also the Sephardic Jews were the biggest race traders in the world, along with the Moors, because they also helped enslaving their own people. Jake, okay, the most, or let me say, a lot of the slave owners, okay, during this early colonial time, were Jakes, Sephardic Jews and Moors. In the in Latin America, the Sephardic Jews in Latin America, they were known, especially in, I think it's called Guyana, either Guyana or Suriname. The the Sephardic Jews in those territories, okay, they practiced one of the most brutal forms of slavery in the New World. Okay, shows you, according to the scriptures, among my people are found wicked men. Okay, so that's enough of the Sephardic Jews. I don't want to go too deep into it, but Lord willing, I'll make a lesson about them uh, at a different time. So we're gonna go ahead and play the video here. Iraq, Iran, and Yemen. These are the Mizrahi Jews or the Mizrahi Jews. And the reason why they have been living here since biblical times is because of what? The Babylonian captivity, which I'm going to show you an image here. You can see that this is very identical to the highlights that they have listed here, or they have here on this map. You got the Babylonian Empire, 606 to 536 BC. You can see it encompasses parts of Turkey. You also have some up in the Caucasus region. They're also known as the mountainous Jews, all right? Over here in Iraq, Syria, Israel, Jordan, parts of Iran, also known as the Persian Jews. And you also have a lot of them that went to Egypt, okay? They formed the Jewish community there, or the so-called Jewish community, okay? And these people are Israelites, not converts, Israelites. And I'm going to show you why I say that. Because if you go into their customs are actually more similar to the customs of the Bible than, the, what's it called? Than the Ashkenazi converts, the Khazars, the people that were converted by John Hyrcanus. Okay, so let's continue watching the video.
آره میدیم کجا یه چیزی میخریم تدیسی دوست داری؟
تدیسی
آها.
Yes, the Talmud was created. The Talmud was created by Israelites, and uh, it was actually the Babylonian Jews that created the Talmud. That's why it's also known as the Babylonian Talmud, because we gave we pretty much created a book. A bunch of Levites got together and created a book that the Ashkenazi, or let me not say the Ashkenazi, the Idumean converts could use. So let's continue read it on. Let's continue watching the video. It says here most Mizrahi Jews were forced out of their native homes when the state of Israel was established in 1948. Why is that? Because they are Israelites, okay? And the elites, starting with the Rothschilds, through the Balfour Declaration, they know that these people, or a good majority of them, are descendants of the real Israelites. These devils, they know. Well, we gotta go back. I mean, look at how dark they are. These people are very swarthy. Okay, they're very swarthy people. These are old photos, so some of them are still dark skinned like this. Yeah, we have a lot of them that are still dark skinned like this. This guy, this young lad right here, can he will be classified as a Native American here in the States. A Gadite. Let's And also a fun fact, the Mizrahi Jews, they dominate the music scene in Israel. The so-called Ashkenazim, okay, or the Ashkenazi, okay? The so-called Ashkenazi, they do not dominate the music scene at all. It's really the Mizrahi that's pretty much taken over. Why? Because they're the true Israelites. The salt of the earth. All right, let's go ahead and get into this article right here. It says the kingdom of the Levant. Okay, kingdom of the Levant. It says here the Mizrahi Jews, Israel, incorporating Algerian Jews, Babylonian Jews, Bukharian Jews, Caucasus Jews, the ones in Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, okay, those areas in the Caucasus region, okay, Edot Hamizrak, I don't know what that is. Egyptian Jews, Georgian Jews, Iranian Jews, Iraqi Jews, the Babylonian Jews, okay, the Kurdish Jews, okay, the Lak Kluk, or the Lak Luk Jews, the Lebanese Jews, all right, the Libyan Jews, Moroccan Jews, some of these people are actually Sephardic too, like, these North African Jews that you see here. Mountain Jews, Oriental meaning Eastern. So going as far as China. You also have a group of Mizrahi Jews that traveled to China using the Silk Road, you know? Persian Jews, Sudanese Jews, Syrian Jews, and Tunisian Jews and Yemenite Jews. Okay? So There you go. The Mizrahi Diaspora, or the names that that's classified as the Mizrahi. It says here today, Israel and Palestine are irre- irrevocably linked in terms of their history. The former was carved out of a large proportion of the already expanded ladder from 1948. Prior to that lies 4,000 years of history. Okay, but the thing is, the the ladder from 1948 has no connection to the previous of 1948. The history, the 4,000 years of history. Sometimes recorded, sometimes alluded to, and sometimes a complete mystery. I'm picking it to establish a relatively stable story has been the work of decades, and even today there are differences of opinion regarding many of the details. Okay, it says here the region in which both names came to be created was Canaan. So they're going to the history of Israel, the long Mediterranean coast between Syria and Egypt, which today is known as the Levant. Various Shemitic speaking groups formed state in this region for around 3000 BC onwards. Okay, we're going to skip down. It says here, then came the Jewish diaspora in the age of great empires in the form of the Persians, the Greeks, the Romans, the Eastern Romans, Islam, and the Ottomans. Okay, so if you know about Daniel's prophecy, okay, if I can remember, you have the Babylonian. In fact, let me go ahead and get it. Daniel's Nebuchadnezzar dream statue. Okay? The Nebuchadnezzar dream statue. I can't remember offhand. So you had the Babylonian Empire. Okay? See if I can get that picture for you. You have the Babylonian Empire, you have the Persian Empire, you have the Greek Empire, and then you have the Roman Empire. Okay? The Roman Empire. So let's go back into the article. It says here, until the 20th century saw the most recent phase of building, empire building, come to an end and individual sovereign states emerge. Until that happened, both Judea and Palestine remained occupied territories, yeah, by these different empires. By the time independence was regained, Jewish groups had begun immigrating to and from Israel and Palestine for 2,000 years and more, spreading them far as wide as across the old world, okay? Again, going into Sephardic Jews and a number of generalized groupings, despite these, okay, and also the Mizrahi Jews as well. Despite these groupings had been joined across these centuries by converted regional locals, they're going into DNA. I'm going to go ahead and skip that. It says here the term Mizrahi Jews was coined at the founding of modern Israel. Okay, also referred to as Mizrahim, sounds kind of like Egypt, Matazarian, Mizrahim, or Mizrazim, or Mizraim. Okay, it sounds like Egypt, Matazarium, the Matazarium Jews, or the Egyptian Jews, and alternatively as Oriental Jews or Edat Ha Mizrach, which they're going. That's that Yiddish. The group includes all Jews who had remained in Roman Palestine following the termination of the province of Judea. Okay, this is during the time of Hadrian, because he pretty much changed the name of Judea to Palestine, and he was an Israelite. Hadrian was an Israelite in a Gentile state of mind. Okay, along with those who had migrated towards the Near East and North Africa. Okay, including the strong community of Babylonian Jews which had existed in the city of Babylon since when? Since the exile, which was heavily refreshed from the mid 3rd century AD. Okay? The Babylonian exile. And I'm going to go ahead and get a few scriptures on this. This is 2 Kings 24. Okay, I'm going to start at verse 1. While Jehoiakim was king, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylonia invaded Judah And for 3 years, Jehoiakim was forced to submit to his rule. Then he rebelled. This is in the GNT. The Lord sent armed bands of Babylonians, Syrians, Moabites, and Ammonites against Jehoiakim to destroy Judah, as the Lord had said through his servants the prophets that he would. This happened at the Lord's command in order to banish the people of Judah from his sight because of all the sins that King Manasseh had committed. That goes into Hosea, the first chapter, okay, where the Lord said, call him Lo I mean, for they are not my people, roughly paraphrasing, right? And also, there's also another one in Jeremiah where it says, your treacherous sister Judah has also played a harlot, roughly paraphrasing, okay? It's kind of late right now, so I can't really remember the exact verse, the exact chapter for that scripture, okay? And especially because of all the innocent people he had killed, the Lord could not forgive Manasseh for that. Everything that Jehoiakim did is recorded in the history, okay, of the kings of Judah. Jehoiakim died, and his son Jehoiachin, okay, succeeded him as king. Okay, the king of Egypt and his army never marched out of Egypt again. So they pretty much Judah made a deal with Egypt, and that's why it says in Isaiah where it says, "Woe to them that go down to Egypt for help." Okay, because they trusted not in the Holy One of Israel. Roughly paraphrased, I think that's in Isaiah the 30th chapter. Okay, this was actually talking about back then, but now it can be applied to modern Egypt. Okay, the king of Egypt and his army never marched out of Egypt again because the king of Babylonia now controlled all the territory that had belonged to Egypt, from the Euphrates River to the northern border of Israel. Okay? So now we're getting into King Jehoiakim or Jehoiachin, all right, of Judah, the son of Jehoiakim. Okay? It says here, Jehoiachin was 18 years old when he became king of Judah, and he ruled in Yasharal, okay, which is Jerusalem, for 3 months. His mother was Nehushta, the daughter of Elnathan from Jerusalem. Following the example of his father, Jehoiachin sinned against the Lord, okay? It was during his reign that the Babylonian army, commanded by King Nebuchadnezzar's officers, marched against Jerusalem and besieged it. This is also known, okay? I'm going to get another article. This is also known, okay? I believe it is also known as the second deportation, okay, of Judah into Babylon. The first was during the time of Jehoiakim. As you can see here, this is the timeline of the Babylonian captivity, the exile. Okay, it says here the Babylonians and the Medes they conquer Assyria. Hosea or Josiah killed by Egyptian army. Jehoahaz is king. Okay, and Jehoiakim becomes king after 3 months. Nebuchadnezzar becomes king of Babylon, and the Babylonians invade Judah. This was all during the time. This was during the time of Jehoiakim. Okay, first wave of deportation of Jews to Babylon, and this was also the time during the first wave that Daniel was taken captive. Okay, that's where you get in Daniel chapter 1. Okay, where it talks about the third year, of that time. They took pretty much the king's seed, okay, and the nobles at that time. In the third year that Jehoiakim was king of Judah, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylonia attacked Jerusalem and surrounded the city. The Lord let him capture King Jehoiakim, okay, and seize some of the temple measures. He took some prisoners back with him to the temple of his gods in Babylonia and put the captured treasures in the temple storerooms. The king ordered Aspenaz, his chief official, to select from among the Israelite exiles some young men of the royal family and of the noble families, of the royal family and of the noble families. They had to be handsome, intelligent, well trained, quick to learn, and free from physical defects, so that they will be qualified to serve in the royal court. As Ashpenaz was to teach them to read and write the Babylonian language, the king also gave orders that every day that they will be given the same food and wine as the members of the royal court. So they were pretty much treated good in exile. Among those chosen was or were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, okay? All whom were from the tribe of Judah, okay? And these are their Hebrew names, okay? Now, right here, the chief official gave them new names: Bel Teshar, which is Daniel's Babylonian name, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Okay, Daniel and the three holy children. Okay, so there you go. That's all I'm going to read in Daniel, the first chapter. Okay, all right. Go ahead and read that story on your own. So let's continue reading. Where was I? Okay, I was right here. It says here the word Mizrahi translate. Actually, no. In fact, I just remembered. I was right here. Forgive me. I was in Second Kings right here. I believe it was the the 11th verse, okay, or the 10th verse. It was during his reign that the Babylonian army, commanded by King Nebuchadnezzar's officers, marched against Jerusalem and besieged it. During the siege, Nebuchadnezzar himself came to Jerusalem, and King Jehoiachin, along with his mother, his sons, his officers, and the palace officials, surrendered to the Babylonians. In the 8th year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign, he took Jehoiachin prisoner. Okay, so this is the second deportation, the second wave, all right, and carried off to Babylon all the treasures in the temple and the palace. As the Lord had foretold, Nebuchadnezzar broke up all the gold utensils which King Solomon has made, okay, for use in the temple. Nebuchadnezzar carried away as prisoners the people of Jerusalem, all the royal princes and all the leading men, 10,000 in all. He also deported all the skilled workers, including the blacksmiths, leaving only the poorest of the people behind in Judah. Okay? Now you have this clown, Dr. Brown, saying, no pun intended, not trying to rhyme, but you have this clown, Dr. Brown, who's saying that we cannot be the Israelites because of Deuteronomy 28, verse 62, which I'm going to read here. Okay? It's talking about the deportation, all right, of Judah into Babylon. Okay? You have to understand that some of these curses, all right, were actually fulfilled. Okay? And some of them were speaking about the future. Case in point, Deuteronomy 28, verse 68 was talking about the future. Okay? Because Egypt is so close to the land of Israel that you wouldn't need ships to travel or to be transported there. Okay, it's foolish. It is foolish. These devils, they're really trying hard. Okay, this is Deuteronomy 28 verse 62. It says, although you become as numerous as the stars in the sky, this is in the GNT, only a few of you will survive, because you did not obey the Lord your power. Just as the Lord took delight in making you prosper and in making you increase in number, so he will take delight in what in destroying you and bringing ruin on you. You will be uprooted from the land that you are about to occupy. So this was during the time when Moses said this. It was during the time of that generation that came after the rebellious generation in the wilderness. Okay, that's why it says you'll be uprooted from the land that you are about to occupy, because we were about to enter the Holy Land with that new generation. Okay, and then verse 64, the Lord will scatter you among all the nations. So the beginning of that scattering was what? Was the Babylonian captivity. In fact, going as far as the Assyrian captivity with the northern kingdom. Okay, because he had a portion of the northern kingdom that stayed okay, in the Middle East or the Levant area, and the majority of them went to the Americas. All right. Now, a good portion of them stayed in the Levant area, and they moved up into the Caucasus region and spread all over Europe. They were known as the Scythians or the Sakai or the Saxons, okay, aka the sons of Isaac, okay, the Sakai or the Scythians. Apostle Paul spoke about them in Colossians 3, verse 28 or verse 20, somewhere around there, you know. And also, there's also a verse that speaks about the Scythians in the book of Maccabees as well, you know. Go ahead and check those two references out. Okay? The Lord will scatter you among all the nations from one end of the earth to the other. Okay? And there you will serve gods made of wood and stone, gods that neither you nor your ancestors have even worshipped before. Okay? And this is one of the scattering, okay? All over the Levant area and these places, you know, the Caucasus region and even going as far as China. Okay? You have what is called the Kafing Jews. Okay, they are pretty much descendants of Mizrahi Jews that traveled to China along the Silk Road. Okay, so let's go back to Second Kings. It says here, uh, Nebuchadnezzar took Jehoiakim to Babylon as a prisoner, together with Jehoiakim's mother, his wives, his officials, and the leading men of Judah, thus making Deuteronomy 28, verse 62, that prophecy being fulfilled. Nebuchadnezzar deported all the important men to Babylonia, 7,000 in all, and 1,000 skilled workers, including the blacksmiths, all of them able bodied men fit for military duty. Okay? Nebuchadnezzar made Jehoiakim's uncle Metaniah king of Judah, okay, and changed his name to Zedekiah. Okay? So if we go back here now, okay, you have what is called Zedekiah becomes king of Judah, okay, and then the third wave of Jews being deported to Babylon, okay, and that marks the end of the monarchy in what in Judah, okay. Verse 18: Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king of Judah, and he ruled in Jerusalem for 11 years. His mother was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah from the city of Libnah. King Zedekiah sinned against the Lord, just as King Jehoiakim had done. The Lord became so angry with the people of Jerusalem and Judah that he banished them from his sight. Okay, marking the third wave of the deportation, okay, of Judah into what? Into Babylon. All right. Now, if you go into verse chapter 25, okay, it goes into the deportation, which I'm going to read a little bit of it, and then the destruction of the temple. Okay? So I'm going to read up until verse 21. All right? It says here, the fall of Jerusalem, Zedekiah rebelled against King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. And so Nebuchadnezzar came with all his army and attacked Jerusalem on the 10th day of the 10th month of the ninth year of Zedekiah's reign. They set up a camp outside the city, built siege walls around it, and kept it under siege until Zedekiah's 11th year, okay, on the ninth day of the fourth month of the same year, when the famine was so bad that the people had nothing left to eat. That was the famine that was spoken about. The city walls were broken through. Although the Babylonians were surrounding the city, all the soldiers escaped during the night. They left by way of the royal guard, went through the gateway connecting the two walls, and fled into the direction of the Jordan Valley. But the Babylonian army pursued King Zedekiah, captured him in the plains near Jericho, and all his soldiers deserted him. Zedekiah was taken to King Nebuchadnezzar, who was in the city of Riblah, and there Nebuchadnezzar passed sentence unto him. While Zedekiah was looking on, his sons were put to death. Okay? Then Nebuchadnezzar had Zedekiah's eyes put out and placed him in chains and took him to Babylon. So that was the end of the monarchy in Judah. Okay? That was the end of that line, you know? Okay? It says here the destruction of the temple which the Edomites helped. You know, they helped in burning down the temple. You can read about that, and I think it was in the Apocrypha, either the second or the first Esdras, where it talks about the burning of the temple, and also in Psalms 137. Okay, on the seventh day of the fifth month of the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylonia, Nebuzaradan, advisor to the king and commander of his army, entered Jerusalem. He burned down the temple, the palace, and the houses of all the important people in Jerusalem, and his soldiers tore down the city walls. Okay? Then Nebuzaradan took away to Babylonia the people who were left in the city, the remaining skilled workers, because there were still skilled workers that were left, and those who had deserted to the Babylonians, but he left in Judah some of the poorest people who owned no property and put them to work in the vineyards and fields. So they were put into slavery. Okay? And that's pretty much all I'm going to read here. I'm going to jump down to the people of Judah are taken to Babylonia. In addition, Nebuzaradan, the commanding officer, took away as prisoners Serariah, the high priest, Zephaniah, okay, the priest next in rank, and the three other important temple officials. I believe that Zephaniah, the one who wrote the book of Zephaniah, or um, yeah, from the city he took the officer who had been in command of the troops, five of the king's personal advisors who were still in the city, the commander's assistant who was in charge of military records, and 60 other important men. Nebuzaradan took them to the king of Babylonia, who was in the city of Riblah, in the territory of Hamath. There the king had them beaten and put to death. So the people of Judah were carried away from their land into exile. That's the third wave of the deportation. All right. So you had three waves. And then from here you had what is the Babylonians destroyed Jerusalem and the temple, which I'm gonna go ahead and get that right now. There's also one in Esdras, uh, destruction of the temple. I'm not sure if that is in first Esdras or second Esdras. I have to see. Okay, it's not First Corinthians. No, it's not Second Kings. Let's see here. Destruction of the temple by Idumeans. Okay. No, it's not Second Maccabees. There's a verse. Oh, I forgot what it's called. I forgot how it's worded. Forgive me. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, Dawadi Halbashim Al Shai. First Esdras 4, verse 45. Okay? I remember this scripture a long time ago. Okay? So let me go ahead and get the context of it, start up a little bit up above. Let's see here. And let me start at verse 43. Then he said unto the king, remember thy vow, which thou hast vowed to build Jerusalem in the day when thou camest to thy kingdom. This was during the reign of Cyrus the Great, which you're going to read about it in Esdras, the first chapter. Okay, that decree. Okay, all right. And to send away all the vessels that were taken out of Jerusalem, which Cyrus set apart when he vowed to destroy Babylon and to send them again thither. Verse 45, that has also vowed to build up the temple, which the who? The Edomites burned when Judea was made desolate by the Chaldees. You know? So it was the Edomites who burned the temple. Let's go ahead and get Psalms 137, verse the GNT version. Okay? I'm starting at verse 1. By the rivers of Babylon we sat down. There we wept when we remembered Zion. Okay. On the hill of willows nearby, we hung up our harps. Those who captured us told us to sing. They told us to entertain them, sing us a song about Zion. Okay? How can we sing a song to the Lord in a foreign land? May I never be able to play the harp again if I forget you, Jerusalem. May I never be able to sing again if I do not remember you, if I do not think of you as my greatest joy. Verse 7. Remember, Lord, what the Edomites did the day Jerusalem was captured. Okay? Remember, O Lord, remember how they kept saying, tear it down to the ground. So it was the Edomites who burned the temple. Okay? Babylon, you will be destroyed. Okay? It talks about the daughter of Babylon. Happy are those who pay you back for what you have done to us, who take your babies and smash them against a rock, which we're going to do in the kingdom. Okay? So it goes from uh the Babylonians, us being carried away into Babylonian captivity, to the Edomites, to the daughter of Babylon, which is the daughter of Edom. Okay? You can read about that in Lamentations. If my memory serves me right, I think it's Lamentations 3, okay, verse 21. It says, O daughter of Edom, uh, the Lord will remember your plagues, roughly paraphrasing. You can go ahead and look it up in your own time. Uh, let's see here. Now that I got that out of the way, let's go ahead and read Ezra's chapter 1, just a little bit of it, okay? Talking about the building of the temple, okay? Now, in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled, okay? The Lord stirred up the spirit of of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and put it also in writing, saying, Thus saith Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and has charged me to build him an house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Who is there among you from of all his people? His power be with him, and let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and build a house of the Lord. Okay? The house of Yahweh Shem Yahshai, the power of Israel. He is the power which is in Jerusalem. Okay? And to whosoever remaineth any place where he sojourneth, let the men of his place help him with silver and with gold and with goods and with beasts, besides the free will offering for the house of the Most High that is in Jerusalem. Then rose up the chief of the fathers of Judah and Benjamin, and the priests and the Levites, with all of them whose spirit the Most High has raised, to go up to build the house of the Lord which is in Jerusalem. And that's where you get Zerubbabel, and how the heathens came and tried to trouble us building. Okay? And they and all they that were about them strengthened their hands with vessels of silver, with gold, with goods, and with beasts, and with precious things, beside all that was willingly offered. Okay? And Cyrus the king brought forth the vessels of the house of the Lord, which Nebuchadnezzar had brought forth out of Jerusalem, and had put them in the house of his gods. Okay? Okay, even those that Cyrus king of Persia bring forth by the hand of Mithridath the treasurer, and numbered them unto Sheshbazzar, the prince of Judah. Okay? And this is the number of them: 30 charges of gold, 1,000 charges of silver, and 920 knives, 30 basins of gold, silver basins of a second sort, 410, and other vessels 1,000. All the vessels of gold and silver were 5,400. All these did Sheshbazzar bring up with them of the captivity that were brought up from Babylon unto Jerusalem. So there you go, the rebuilding of the temple. Okay? The rebuilding of the temple. That's the beginning, and then you can read about in I think it's is it Nehemiah chapter 6, where it talks about Zerubbabel. You could go into there where they actually do the building, and then Jake got lazy, and then I believe it was either Nehemiah. to curse them out, Like what the hell are y'all doing? This is our chance to rebuild the house of the Lord. So I'm not going to go ahead and get that scripture. You can look at it on your own time. I want to make this just pretty short. I'm going to leave this. All right. Okay. I'm going to leave this in the description box. You can look at it your own time. It gives you the timeline of the Babylonian captivity and the exile. So there you go. You got the beginning of the Persian period. All right. The decree of Cyrus the Second, which the beginning of the Persian period, I believe it is in Daniel the sixth or the fifth chapter. I could be wrong. Okay. Then the decree of Cyrus the Great, allowing the Jews to return, and then the Jews, okay, Judah rebuilt the temple. Okay. So let's go back into this article. It says the word Mizrahi would translate as Easterner. It can be used to include groups which has also historically resided in the Caucasus and Central Asia. It is primarily a designation for Jewish communities which have historically existed alongside Arab communities. Okay, Mizrahi Jews are generally influenced by Sephardic laws and customs, so that they are sometimes labeled as Sephardic Jews. Okay, the Babylonian Jews formed from the point at which Samaria fell in the 7th century BC. This community was greatly increased after the fall of Judea. So the fall of Samaria was pretty much, the northern kingdom being taken into Assyrian captivity. Okay, they are also referring to the northern kingdom as Jews as well. Okay, the community was greatly increased after the fall of Judea, but it remained substantial even after Jews were allowed to return to Jerusalem in the 6th century BC. Okay, so what they're saying, what they're telling you is that uh even after the Jews were allowed to return, pursuant to, Ezra's the first chapter and many other scriptures where Cyrus the Great fulfills the decree, okay, allowing the Jews to return and rebuild the temple, the Israelites, right? You still had a proportion of them that still stayed behind, that still stayed behind, in that Babylonian region, okay? Going into what? Deuteronomy 28 verse 68, not 68 but 64, the Israelites being scattered all over the world, okay? And also many other scriptures, this is just one of the historical proof or evidences for this, it says here, gradually across the Parthian and Sassanid and early Iranian periods, it filtered out across these various empires, remaining numerous as the Persian Jews, okay, or the Iranian Jews. So they were known as the Persian Jews. Why? Because Babylon was conquered by who? Cyrus the Great. And who was Cyrus? He was a Persian, okay? That's why they were labeled Persian Jews. The Babylonian Jews fared less well during the Mongol invasions, and their descendants, the Iraqi Jews, all right? The Iraqi, because the Mongols, they invaded parts of Western Asia, the Levant area. The Iraqi Jews largely fled to India, where they formed the Diaspora subgroup of the Baghdadi Jews, okay? Which there is a video out on there talking about who are the Jews in India and who are the Jews in China, okay? There you go, the Maz or the Mizrahi Jews, okay? At least three smaller groups are directly descended from the outward spread of the Babylonian communities: Mountain Jews or Caucasus Jews of Azerbaijan and the Northern Caucasus, Bukharan Jews of the former Emirate of Bukhara, now Tajikistan and Uzbekistan, with those specifically being exiled Persian Jews. All right, and what? And perhaps applying the basis of the Kafing Jews. Okay, the Kafing Jews, again, they are pretty much Jews living in Kafing, China. Okay, and their descendants came from where? The Caucasus Jews, which the Caucasus Jews were descendants of the spread from the Babylonian community. okay, and the Luk Jews of Kazakhstan, okay. The Georgian Jews are separate from the mountain Jews, being descended from a group which settled in the ancient kingdom of Kokis, having traveled directly there from Judah at its fall in 586 BC. The nation of Israel are scattered into all people of the earth, man. This is amazing. And the Lord is only going to gather the elect, okay, of the nation of Israel, all right? Various subsets of Oriental Jews exist, such as the Yemenite Jews, known also as Yemeni or Temenan Jews. Their communities formed between the start of Babylonian captivity and the creation of Roman Palestine, and possibly even before Babylon, if a tradition which involves the Solomonite period is to believe. Following a flourish thanks to the first millennium AD Judaic kingdom of Himyar, they were subsequently isolated from the rest of Judaism by the Islamic invasion. During the period, they developed into three main groups. Okay, could be differentiated through literature, liturgy, and practices. Today, these groups are classed as having been the latest change of all diasporic groups. So pretty much, they're saying they're like the quote unquote purest in terms of traditions. You know, the ones who are the least Hellenized or heathenized. You know, then they give you a they pretty much give you a timeline. 597 BC, Nebuchadnezzar invades Jerusalem with the help of Ammon. Okay, 586, the conquest of Judah. 539, Persia, Cyrus the Great enters Babylon. Okay, 459 BC, Ezra a scribe leads the second body of exiled Israelites. All right, back to Jerusalem from Babylon. He also writes in the book of Ezra. Okay, then you have 110 BC, the Judaic Himyarite kingdom, okay, becomes independent of the Contabanian kingdom. Both states dominate the southern highlands of today's Yemen, so the Yemenite Jews, which they are Israelites as well, you know. A good portion of them, not all of them, because you do have heathens among them, you know. Uh, AD 68 to 73 goes into the Hasmonean period, okay. Going into the Zealots and the revolutionaries and the Masada and the fall of pretty much the fall, you know, 70 AD, the fall. Okay, let me read a little bit here. It says here, um, the destruction of the second temple. Oh, let me read this here. It says here, Mark Antonius Julianus fails to prevent the the serious disturbances, okay, across the region from devolving into all-out warfare. Instead, Titus Flavius Vespasianus Vespasianus is appointed as overall commander of senatorial rank. He besieges Jerusalem until the year of the four emperors, provides a distraction with popular support from across the eastern regions. He becomes the first Flavian emperor in AD 69 AD, leaving his son Titus Caesar Vespasianus to complete the siege. Jerusalem and the Second Temple are destroyed in 70 AD, and many Jews are taken as captives to Rome, either to be executed or to be used as gladiator gladiator gladiatorial sacrifices. All right. The development since the Hasmonean period of an oral teacher tradition known as the Tana becomes the means by which the Judaic faith is able to survive, uh, yada yada yada. It says here the destruction of the second temple marks the end of the Hellenic period as far as Jews are concerned. The remnants of the revolutionary zealots are now holed up in Masada. The Sadducees have either disappeared or are about to, and the Essenes also vanished because perhaps because they have also moved so far away from temple-based worship that they are no longer relevant. Yada yada yada. The age of Judaic sectarianism is over. You know, only two major groups remain: the Christians and Pharisees. The early Catholic Christian faith is still largely indivisible from Judaic practice, okay? But it is Christians who will gradually gain dominance in Judea and then across the Roman world. The Pharisees and their Pharisaic Judaism will gradually mutate, okay, between the second and fourth centuries AD into rabbinic Judaism. Now, this right here is the beginning of Khazar, okay, the Edomites that were converted, okay, to Judaism, or quote unquote the law, statutes, and commandments during the time of John Hyrcanus. This is what they mean by rabbinic Judaism. Okay, this was their beginning. Okay, as the Pharisees faded away, these Edomites came up. Because they were the ones who were still holding true to the quote unquote law, statutes, and commandments. You know, considering the fact that some of the exile period Jewish families have remained in Babylon, it is also likely that migration begins or is stepped up in that direction, increasing the population. Okay, of Mizrahi Jews. The Ashkenazi Jews were also probably created at this time, while the Georgian Jews of Kokis are also known to receive a fresh boost to their population at this time. So there you go. Okay. And it talks about Rome forbidding the Jews from entering Jerusalem, and then another great Jewish diaspora into Yemen, greatly increasing the population of Yemenite Jews, and then the fractured Parthian, uh, empire. That you have a large Jewish community, that prospers in Babylon, and is likely there follows a small level of diffusion of Jewish diaspora groups eastwards through the empire, eventually into India, to become labeled the Indian Jews. Whereas what they will call let's see if they have the name here, the Bukhari, okay, the Bukharan, not the Bukharan, but the what's the name for the Indian Jews? They had it here. The Baghdadi Jews, right? The Baghdadi Jews, or aka the Iraqi Jews. So this whole article is interesting. There's a lot of information. A lot of information. It goes into the history, the timeline, everything. But for the sake of time, I'm not gonna read everything. Okay. I just wanted to read just that excerpt there. You guys can read on your own time. Good information. Now I'm gonna go into here Wikipedia. Okay. The Mizrahi Jewish cuisine. Okay, it says here the Mizrahi Jewish cuisine is an assortment of cooking traditions that develop among the Jews of the Middle East, North Africa, and Asia, and Arabic countries. Mizrahi Jews have also been known as Oriental Jews. Mizrahi is Hebrew for Eastern or Oriental. Jews of the Mizrahi communities cook foods that were and are popular in our home countries, which following the laws of kashrut. The cuisine is based largely on fresh ingredients, as marketing were done in a local souk. Meat is ritually slaughtered in the shechita process and is soaked and salted. Okay, meat dishes are a prominent feature of Shabbat, festival, and celebratory meals. Cooked, stuffed, and baked vegetables are central to the cuisine, as are various kinds of beans, chickpeas, lentils, and burkle, cracked wheat. Rice takes the place of potatoes. Okay, then they go into the history here. And what you're gonna find out is that the Mizrahi Jews, they don't eat pork. Okay, they don't eat pork at all. The main foods that they consume is lamb and ground beef. Mizrahi Jews are the Jews of the Middle East and points south and east, largely along the Mediterranean coastal area and in the Levant. In some centuries, there were much mixing of populations after 1492, when the Jews were expelled from Spain. Cuisine of the Mizrahi Jews includes the cuisines of the Jews of Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, Persia, Afghanistan, Egypt, the Berber communities, which is like the Maghrebi. or the North African Jews, okay, aka the Sephardic Jews, Kurdistan, Eastern Caucasus, again going into the mountainous Jews, the Georgian Jews, and etc. Also those same Jews that pretty much created what is now known as the Kafin Jews. Some of these communities and cuisines styles overlap with Sephardic communities who fled to many Eastern, Middle Eastern, and North African countries after what? The Spanish explosion. Okay? They're going into the Sephardic Jews. Coming from the Mediterranean and sunny climes, Mizrahi Jew cuisine is often light, with an emphasis on salads, stuffed vegetables, and vine leaves, olive oil, lentils, okay, and dried fruits, herbs, and nuts, and chickpeas. Meat dishes often make use of what? Forgive me. Of lamb, okay, it says here. Nope, that's not it. Of lamb and ground beef or ground beef. Fresh lemon juice is added to many soups and sauces. Many meat and rice dishes incorporate dried fruits such as apricots, prunes, and raisins. Okay, pine nuts are also used as garnish. Pomegranate juice is a staple of Persian Jewish cooking. Okay, and then you have what is kubeh, which looks like this. It's pretty much meat made of pretty much lamb. Okay, it's made of lamb meat or ground beef. Okay, and they dip it in stew. Okay, the breads. Okay, flat breads. Flat breads. What does that remind you of? Unleavened bread. Okay, unleavened bread. Okay, showing you that these people are in fact descendants of Israel. Okay, because the Northern Kingdom they also eat unleavened bread through tortillas. Flatbreads of many varieties are created or are central to Middle Eastern cooking. Various flatbreads such as pitas, okay, also known as Arabic bread, lafa, okay, and malawa, okay, Yemenite Jewish cuisine, malawak or malawa, and lavash, okay. This is a unleavened bread. It's an unleavened bread mainly created or cooked in the Caucasus region, in Armenia, Azerbaijan, Iran, and parts of Turkey, okay, in the Caucasus and Western Asia, okay, are used instead of shalah, which is what the Edomites they eat. And you can look at this and tell this is not unleavened bread, okay, showing you that these Ashkenazi people, the Jays, the small hats, they are not descendants of the true Israelites, because they don't keep the customs, okay? They don't keep they don't keep the customs at all right? Which is used only by Ashkenazim of Europe and in the turban shaped variety by Moroccan Jews, okay? La ho, okay? La ho is a flatbread of the Yemenite Jews with a spongy texture, okay? So it was originally from Somalia, okay? All right, originating from Somalia, and it goes into the herbs. Mizrahi cuisines make liberal use of cumin, pepper, sesame seeds, and various spices common to all Middle Eastern cuisines. Okay, saffron, a staple of Sephardic cuisine, is also featured in certain Mizrahi dishes. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and skip over this. Gonna go jump down to pretty much the Shabbat. Okay, says here, Shabbat foods are often slow cooked prior to Shabbat and kept warm overnight once cooked, as cooking is forbidden on Shabbat by what? By the law, the Levitical law. In Yemenite cooking, Shabbat dishes include jack noon and kubaneh. So they bake it overnight and they serve it on Shabbat mornings, pretty much. Okay? Mizrahi cuisine allows the use of kitniot, okay? which is like legumes, which is forbidden amongst the small hats. Kidney are legumes and some grains, which includes rice and a variety of beans and pulses. Whereas uh charoset, okay, charoset in uh Ashkenazi homes is a blend of chopped apples and nuts spiced with wine and cinnamon. Okay, uh, Mizrahi charoset is often based on dried fruits, especially dates, and is much thicker. Okay, it says here other Mizrahi Jewish dishes are Tibet, which is like chicken and rice dish, and ingri, sweet and sour meat topped with aubergines, both in the cuisine of Iraqi Jews. So they go into Hashanah, okay, and they also show you more pictures of their cooking, okay. I'm gonna leave all of these links in this in the description box. I'm gonna go ahead and get a few more scriptures, okay. This is Isaiah, all right, uh, Isaiah 11. I'm go ahead and get in the King James version. All right. Let's see here. It's getting pretty late. I'm getting tired. Let me start at verse 10. And in that day there should be a root of Jesse, okay, which shall stand for an ensign of the people. And a ensign is like a sign or a marker, an insignia, okay? To which shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious. And the Gentiles that's being mentioned here are the Israelites, all right? The Gentile Israelites, those are the ones, the Gentiles that can receive salvation, aka the Israelite foreigners. Verse 11, and it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand against the second time to recover the remnant of his people, who shall be left from where? From Assyria, okay, and from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, India, Persia, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, the Babylonians, the Babylonian area, and from the islands of the sea, okay? Showing you that you have Israelites in all these different regions, okay? And one of the main diasporas are the Mizrahi Jews, and he shall set up an ensign for the nations, okay, and shall assemble the outcast of Israel, the northern kingdom, because they were also scattered all over the world, okay, but the main bulk of them are in the Americas, and gathered together the what? The dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. So both the northern and the southern kingdom will be gathered together. I'm gonna go ahead and get a scripture. This is Matthew 24. Okay, I think it's verse 31. Okay, yep, I hit it on the money. This is what's gonna happen when the Lord comes back. Okay, this is Matthew 24. Let me start at verse 30. Okay, it says here, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Verse 31, and he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. So, when the Lord comes back, the elect will be gathered all over the world. Okay, and one of the areas where the elect will be gathered is the Levant area. Okay, or you could say Western Asia and that whole Babylonian Assyrian region. Okay, or going all the way up into the Caucasus region and parts of Eastern Asia. Okay, so that's pretty much all I had. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying unto the elect. I'm gonna leave all these sources down below in the description box. And pretty much until next time, shalom. You know, Israel scattered all over the world, and man, I can't wait for the Lord to gather us back. Lord willing, we be of the elect. Shalom.